Hi everyone, my name is Nafkot and I'm going to be talking about my UX content design internship this summer at Zillow. So a little bit about me, I'm a rising senior at UNT and I'll be graduating with my BS in technical communication and I'll be graduating in the spring of 23. So a little bit about how I got here. I applied to multiple internships throughout fall. I got my interview secured and I did my first interview. But before I did that, I did a lot of research. I did a lot of prep. I also did a lot of research on Zillow's design team. They actually have a website about their design team. So that was really cool. They really showcase their designers. After I did that, I managed to pass my first interview, woohoo, and then I did a small UX writing test. It was nothing big or it's nothing like an exam. It's a really small UX challenge. And when you do that test, you have to present it during your final interview. And then at the very end, I managed to pass the test and I also passed all the multiple rounds of interviews and I got the job. So a little bit about Zillow. Zillow is a tech real estate company specializing in selling, buying, and renting homes. They also have many other brands and lenders with the name Zillow, Zillow is usually just called Zillow, but it's professionally called Zillow Group. And they also finance homes under a different brand called Zillow Home Loans. These are my job duties. I provide strategic input into design solutions. I help deliver clear, concise copy for different user cases. So it's very heavy on UX writing. Help develop product content strategy for mobile and web applications. And I also support senior content designers during their design process. I am mostly but working with my mentor every other day. So I'm usually supporting her in that sense. I work in the content design team, which is under the umbrella of ZXD, which is an acronym for Zillow X Design. That encompasses ZXD basically encompasses every design team. So there's content design, there's product design, UX design, even user researches are considered to be under ZXD. So it's really cool. It's like one big giant design family. And my direct boss is the director of content design. And I also have a content design manager that I report to from a logistical standpoint. These are the tools that I use a lot during my internship. Figma, of course, that's where all of our designs go to, all of our content changes, design changes, everything is in Figma. So it's really, really important. And I'm also really glad that I learned how to use Figma during my sophomore year of being at UNT. Outlook calendar, not just for emails, but the calendar is very important. That's where all of our meetings are scheduled. That's where you're going to see a lot of people adding meetings to your calendar, and you have to really quickly, update your calendar all the time. Everything is changing. It's really fast paced. So it's not too bad. It's honestly something you get used to, but it's definitely a little overwhelming on the first day. Slack, of course, we are very familiar with Slack in TechComm. It's a communication platform. It's where everyone is on Slack. Majority of the time, directors, and managers, they would rather you message them on Slack than email them. Emails are really hard to get responses back to. Slack is kind of like your best friend. I love Slack. And then of course, Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets, and Google Slides. That is an everyday use for meeting notes, presentations, content audits. You would definitely use these multiple times a day. And then one of the tools I wanted to mention that I actually haven't used yet, but I think is really important to mention is usertesting.com. Content designers do use usertesting.com, and it's just really important when trying to gather data. So I did want to give that a shout out. So these are my project details. I work in the PA space, which is Zillow Premier Agents. Zillow Premier Agents are basically real estate agents who advertise on Zillow, and that makes them Zillow Premier Agents. And my project is basically this page, this landing page for the team management is what we call it. It's currently going through a redesign right now. It's using an old design system that Zillow does not use anymore. So it's transitioning into the current design system that we are using, and that's Constellation. And a little bit about the team management page. Basically, agents can use this portal where they can connect with other agents, they can create teams, and they can become team leads if they want to. Like they can become leaders of this team. So it's not a customer facing, it's not consumer facing at all. It's only agents use this. So it's really important to remember, especially for me, that the user is not a customer. It's a partner, like a Zillow partner or a real estate agent. So it's really important to remember that. And what I'm in charge of is I'm in charge of 3 flows, but I'll be showing some examples from 2 different parts of this project just because there are a lot of pages. So I have kind of like creative control, I guess, on this project. I have a lot of time and a lot of resources to really work on this, and it's been really great. I create concise and readable UX copy for these flows, and I'll be showing some of them with you right now. So really quickly, I just want to mention that there actually is no current version for this success message for team management. They have no page that kind of says, congrats, like you have done something, it just kind of takes them back to the search bar. And also there's no like really good UX for the delete team box. Also the design is very old, so that just was not very pleasing to look at. So this is the redesigned version for the delete box. I managed to keep some important information like past sales reviews because that is really important to agents. One thing you have to remember is there's actually no data right now for agents. We have to just kind of use what we know about agents based off of what the researchers have said, but there's no like real conclusive data that we have right now, especially for me. So I did a lot of learning. I learned a lot about Premier Agents and how they work at Zillow and what their ticks are. So one thing about this is it looks, when I show like this and this delete toast right here, kind of looks like you could do that in 5 minutes, but in reality, it really took a lot of time because every time I make a change, I'm updating my team about it. So there's a lot of feedback going on. You're usually presenting your work multiple times and having to go back to the drawing board like every week. So this is an example of the redesign that I did in terms of the content, of course. This was all created by a UX designer. And this right here is our delete toast. A toast is basically, it's kind of like a toast in a toaster. This message will pop up and then disappear in about 3 seconds. So this is what I wrote for our delete toast. It originally did not have a delete toast at all, and now it does, which really helps the user realize that they've completed something and they can kind of like celebrate about it. I'm going to show you some original designs for the settings in the add team members flow. So in that flow, a team lead has an option for what an agent can do. Can they claim profile contact? Can they reassign customers? Well, with this design, we can't really tell if they can. It's kind of like there's this title that says options, but it's like options for what? It's really confusing and not really well designed. So there's 3 of them. Now let's look at the redesigned content. This is the first one, and this is the second one. Let's go back. For this one, you can kind of see how now we know what this is for. It's not just options, these are settings. So that's really confusing because at first it didn't really look like settings. So now we know that this is settings, and what is it for? It's for someone who wants to be a member agent. Now they know exactly what these options are for, and now they know that they can select all that apply. So they don't have to pick all of them, it's an option. Same thing for this one. They know that these settings are for a referral agent, and they know now that they can select which one they would like. They don't have to select all, but they have the option to. Now the instructions are much more clear. What I learned in my challenges, I really learned some really good design thinking. I learned better practices for UX copy, and I really got used to feedback. When I say feedback, I don't mean that I got used to hearing feedback, but I got used to incorporating, actually putting that feedback into my work and then seeing what people said about it. And then I also got used to giving feedback and actually having my voice be heard on these decisions. It's something I didn't expect to happen in my internship. I expected maybe I would be kind of quiet and maybe just supporting my team on the sidelines, but I was really giving feedback and I was really receiving it. That was really, really beneficial and had real life effects on people. My challenges, though, were that I did feel a little bit of imposter syndrome, especially when it came to my UX writing. I really delved into the Zillow library where they had a lot of style guides and best practices, reading material. And I really dug my head in because I didn't want to be bogged down by what I could or what I felt like I could not do. These are the classes that really prepared me for my internship, and I actually mentioned them in my interview. Technical procedures was a really important one because that was pretty much writing instructions, which is what I'm doing in my internship. It really gave me a very solid understanding of how to write instructions, about knowing your audience, what you think they can understand, and it really was just a great class. Obviously, usability and user experience was really important because it's UX. So if you really want to understand UX, or if you feel like you are interested in it, definitely take this class. Information design and content strategy really go hand in hand. I really learned about in this class. I really learned about how people work. Like, how do people work when they're on websites? How long do they take on them? What appeals to them? It was a really fascinating class, and it really prepared me for the work that I'm doing right now. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.